Hello there and welcome back. We're beginning chapter 3, which has everything to do with inequalities. So I suppose you've seen these symbols before. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So we can say things like 9 is greater than 7, minus 5 is less than 0, 2 is greater than or equal to 5. We can also say 2 is greater than or equal to 2. We could say 7 is less than or equal to 12. And of course we can also say 7 is less than or equal to 7. So that's how we write them, that's how we say them. And I'm assuming that that's stuff that you have seen before. We can also graph an inequality. For example, if we have an inequality like x minus 3 and I want to graph it, there's only one variable, so I only need one line. I'll always include 0. Here's 3, and I'll show you a way that's slightly different than the way the book shows. Less than 3 means we use an open circle and we go to the left. If I was graphing x is greater than or equal to 5, here's 0, here's 5, greater than or equal to, I fill in that circle, and then I go to the right. And that's how we graph inequalities. Now we'll look at how we solve inequalities. And there's pretty much the same techniques as solving equations with just one little twist. We'll cover that in a second. So here's a simple one. 3 plus 2x is greater than or equal to 11. So as I said, we do exactly what we did previously with solving equations. We subtract 3 from both sides. And we get 2x is greater than or equal to 8. Then we multiply by a half. And we get x is greater than or equal to 4. And if I wanted to graph that, there's my solution. So let's talk about the thing that makes this a little bit different than equations. So let's look at this statement. Minus 5 is less than 3. If I added or subtracted the same thing to both sides of that inequality, it would remain an inequality, and you can check that out. If I multiply both sides of this by a positive number, the inequality remains the same. The issue comes up if I multiply both sides by a negative number. So look at this. Suppose I multiply both sides by negative 2. What I get on the left is 10. What I get on the right is minus 6. And is 10 less than minus 6? No, of course not. So here, what happens is the direction changes. And the same thing would happen if we were dividing by a negative number instead of multiplying by a negative number. So that's the thing that we have to remember about inequalities, is that when we multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, the direction of the inequality changes. And let's write that down. So there's the rule, and it's an important one. Let's look at one more case. Suppose we say that 3 is greater than minus 12. That's a true statement. But if I multiply both sides by minus 5, well, then I get minus 15 on the left and 60 on the right, and now the direction of the inequality changes. So here's the important rule. Let's try to remember that, and it's really the one place where you can kind of get a little bit messed up when you're solving inequalities. So here's an example that illustrates that. I'll begin by subtracting 3 from both sides. When you add or subtract, the direction of the inequality always remains the same. And now I have minus 2x is greater than or equal to 12. And now what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by minus a half. I'm multiplying both sides by a negative number. So here I get x, here I get minus 6, and now the direction changes. So if I were going to graph that, here's a 0, here's minus 6, and we're less than or equal to. Alrighty? So wow, check this one out. This might be a good time to press pause and work on this one on the side and see if you get the correct work. And I'll go through it for you now. So we got to first simplify each side, perform the operations, use the distributive property. And so I get 6x minus 2 plus 5x is less than 15 minus 6x plus 12. Add like terms, and I get 11x minus 2 is less than 27 minus 6x. Add 6x to each side. Add 2 to each side. And I get 17x is less than 29. And so therefore x is less than 29 over 17. Alright? So very, very, very much like solving a linear equation.